This is Gabriel Gonzalez for Cage Side Press here with the headliner for the first event of the new Bellator Champion Series. It is overtime. Corey Anderson, who takes on Karl Moore for the vacant title. Corey, look, basics out of the way. 2 weeks out. How are we feeling? How's camp been and everything else?
Feeling good, feeling locked in, feeling focused. Camp's been great. Um, like I always said, this camp has probably been the hardest camp of my life, my career. But this one, I really like pushed myself even more, especially the fact that him being a southpaw. Like everybody always says, like southpaws have more orthodox guys to train with. As for orthodox guys, you don't train with southpaws much. So this camp, I've done an effort of flying guys in, traveling to different gyms, traveling hours to get to sparring or just to get drill work with somebody southpaw. So just my confidence is really high right now. You know, I went from sparring with southpaw here and there to every single sparring session, training session, drill session has been with southpaw for the last 9 weeks, and I feel great, feel confident. I'm ready to go. I feel like I can go out and do what I usually do against Orthodox, against the Southpaw now as well.
I mean, very excited to hear all of that. Obviously, a lot of fans are expecting a good fight. Before we talk about Carl and going to Ireland and everything else, I want to work a little bit backward. I would imagine, if I'm on the outside looking in, I watched that Bellator versus PFL event and I'm like, I'm ready to get tagged in too. For yourself, what was it like to see the guys kind of go ahead and really make a statement for Bellator in general going forward into 2024?
It was actually really good feeling. Because here people are talking about who's that number two coming, this and that. And they're like, oh, Bellator at this point, they like G level. They can't even compete with PFL. They can't even compete with one. And you see, we just went out there and just dog walked everybody into the heavyweight fight. And like, I don't know if any of the fights were even close. And so it made me feel good. It was exciting. I had the opportunity to be on that card actually, but the names they offered me from PFL, they all said no. So it is what it is. Can't cry over spilled milk. We moved on, and now we're here fighting for the title. So it was a feel good feeling, kind of like a proud moment just to see like the guys going out there and just representing that Bellator flag the way they did. Not just winning, but like just dominating 4-1, 5-1, whatever it was. But it was a good feeling. It was fun to see. It was exciting to watch, and like I said, it was a proud moment. I know Mike Cogan and Scott Coker. I know they were sitting back with smiles on their face for sure.
Look, I mean, you guys definitely represented out there, and I'm sure a lot more Bellator fighters are chomping at the bit to keep the momentum going. Can I ask you about a few of those guys? I mean, I think people look at it and it's like, all right, coming out of it, who's the guy to watch? Obviously, Impa had a good fight with Johnny Eblen. Johnny got the victory, though, at 85. I mean, do you look at this and be like, hey, maybe Johnny needs to move up and we get something going? Like, did you see something where you're like, that could be the big fight coming up next in Bellator this year?
I saw it, but then that was actually last year. That was something we was looking at before the buyout happened. Johnny Eblen coming up and fighting at 205, and me and him fighting for the vacant belt after Nemkov made his decision to leave. It just didn't end up panning out. But after seeing that, like, yeah, it was a good fight. But then you also see Impa was a 205 champ. But if you think about Impa, it's really a 170, 185. If you look at his UFC career, I've met him before. Great kid. He does great things. He's not like a true 205 build. And like I'm not saying Johnny can't compete at 205, but when you get up there and you trying to get bigger and carry that weight and train that way, it's going to slow you down. And then when you get in there and fight with somebody that actually carries the weight, as for like me, that's coming from like 240, 235, and that first time they sprawl, they get all that weight on top of you. Granted, as much of a gas tank as Johnny has, that still wears you down. It's going to make a big difference. The reach difference, the length, everything is a little different when you go from that 205 to 205, which is why people talk about having like a 195 or a 200 weight class because it's such a big gap. Like I have teammates and people I've trained with in the past that fight 85, but could do well. They had 195. They too big when they cut all their weight to 85. They can't perform. But if they go to 205, they're just too small because when the big bodies get on them. And that's what John, like I said, it could be a good fight. Not saying it won't happen. Not saying I'm not looking forward to it happening or I don't expect it to happen. But I'm just saying it was a good fight for what it was, him and Impa. But it just be weird. Not weird, but it'd be a challenge to see how he handles somebody with a lot more weight, the longer reach. And we also have cardio. Some guys, not everybody, but some guys have cardio and speed at 205 as well. So to have that same challenge he had with Impa with actual heavy guys.
Well, definitely appreciate that. I'd like to ask you a little bit on the business side of things. Corey, I'll be very blunt about it. When you hear about the buyout, you hear about PFL acquiring a lot of talent and the kind of matchups that could be made. One of the ones that I was a little shocked is they didn't want to bring you in to the main PFL season, another chance at the million, maybe fighting these other guys at 205 like Impa and others that they built up. Were there any talks about that? Did you ever kind of make your pitch, or was it always, hey, you're always going to be you're going to stay with the Bellator brand into 2024? What were those talks like, if you could share?
No, we had talks. When it actually was announced, my manager called me that night. I was out of town. I was in Oklahoma on a hunting trip or something. And he called me like, yo, if they called you right now to go to PFL, would you go? It's like, what you mean? Like regular fights? So what's like, no, they put you in a tournament. Yeah, well, my contract the same. I was gonna make money and fight. Like, yeah. Like it's a possibility. We talking about it. I'm talking to him to get you over there now. So we're gonna see. And then he was like, what if they get your title fight in Bellator? What would you want to do? I was like, whichever is going to come first. I just want to fight. I've been sitting on for a while. Whichever the opportunity comes first, and I can get money to keep providing for my family and taking care and stacking this bread, let's do it. And then he hit me up and said, well, the opportunity to come the next fight, it was supposed to be, I think what it was rumored, it was going to be Karl Moore versus Phil Davis on this card. And the winner of that fight will fight me for the vacant title. I believe that's how it was going. And then my manager said, let me call and see if we can move around. And then they end up calling like, yo, look like you fighting for the title next. The first card is gonna be you versus Karl Moore for the strap. So here we are. I took that opportunity. But the opportunity was there for me to fight PFL, I believe. And since they offered that title fight, like I said, my main goal was to get the strap. It's always been my main goal. So I started fighting to be the best, get the belt wrapped around my waist and say I did it. And then stack as much money as we can up from there. So the opportunity to get the belt came first. My manager knew what my plan was, and that's what we went with.
I'd like to ask you about Karl Moore before we run out of time. Obviously, he's the one, with his home crowd over there in Ireland. Just what do you think of his game and what he brings to the table?
Like I tell everybody, he's not a great fighter, but he's not a bad fighter. Not a great. He's not great at one thing, but he's pretty decent at everything. It's like there's not one thing like, oh, this guy you gotta watch out for his left hand, or you gotta watch out for his head kick, or you gotta watch out for his wrestling, you gotta watch out for his jujitsu. It's not like one thing you can pinpoint that he's really good at. As the fact he's good at a little bit of everything. He's good at striking. He's decent in that wrestling. He's pretty decent at jiu-jitsu. He's got more submission wins than me. I have zero. He has like 5 or 6 or something like that. Uh, it's like he's a well-rounded guy. Like I said, he's like Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez, you say it all the time. I'm not great at one thing, but I'm good at being a mixed martial artist. And that's Karl Moore. So it's going to be a guy that's game. He's going to be able to adapt, I feel like, to whatever we throw, but what we throw at him. But the difference is, as I've always said, there's levels to this. It's like I just feel I'm just a higher level than the guys he's fought before. My pace, the pace he usually puts, I put a higher pace and I do it for 5 rounds. My output is higher than most people at 205 for 5 rounds. I've been fighting 5 rounds for the last 4 or 5 fights, except for the last one with Phil Davis. So I have the experience of 5 round fights. I have the cardio to go 5 round fights nonstop. And I just feel like not so much experience, but the class of people we fought have just put me at a different level than him. But like I said, I'm expecting him to come game. It's going to be the toughest fight of his career. So I'm pretty sure he's trying to step it up his training, bring higher level guys in to pick it up. And I do the same thing. Like I couldn't stay stagnant. I had to get higher guys and keep testing myself against the top guys. And it's just I'm waiting to see who goes in there and comes out victorious.
My final question, Bellator did release their schedule. We know there is supposed to be another pay-per-view, at least expectedly, at the end of the year. Have they talked to you about what your schedule might be like? All things, coming out healthy and everything from this fight. Like, do you feel like you will stay with the Bellator series? Do you feel like they plan to give you that fight at the end of the year to keep you on, keep you active with fights? What's their plan for you, to your knowledge?
I don't know. I have no knowledge. It's not my job. My job is to sign a contract and fight. My manager handles that stuff. It's always something I've been keen on. I don't want to get all involved in the business to where you start saying stuff and shooting yourself in the foot, and all of a sudden they're trying to get back at you because you trying to do too much. Your input is not welcome. Put it that way. That's my manager's job to handle that business. It's my job to get the contract, sign the contract, go out there and dominate, fight, paid and let him negotiate. So as for what's gonna happen next, I have no clue. I saw the schedule yesterday. Told my wife it'd be nice to go on a San Diego card. You know, that'd be a good time frame. Go for March, then September. You know what I mean? I've been in Chicago for three of the last ones, I believe. Three, I don't know, 2 or 3. Like I've been there enough. I've been to San Diego once. I wouldn't mind going back to California, fighting, and then have the rest of the year to celebrate the Thanksgiving, Christmas, hunting season, all that other stuff. So, but we'll see how this fight goes. If I come out bumped or unbumped and bruised, they could turn around and put me in there faster. I'm ready for whatever.
Well, looking forward to it. Corey, best of luck. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Corey Anderson taking on Karl Moore on March 22nd in Belfast for the vacant Bellator Light Heavyweight Championship. Guys are not going to want to miss it.